real life, the Netherlands is a tiny one-province minor, but in EU4's newest DLC, it can PU England for free and control half of Western Europe before the start of the 16th century. Hello strategy gaming enthusiasts, my name is AlzaboHD, and in today's video we will spice things up by forming the Netherlands as a minor nation and stacking multiplicative development modifiers to play so tall that our cities will reach outer space. The upcoming Europa Universalis expansion, Winds of Change, is almost here, and Paradox Interactive have sponsored me to show you how to conquer the world with polder power. He who controls the spice controls the universe, and in this video guide I will show you how to transform a minor Dutch nation into the Netherlands, and ultimately form the newest and most unknown formable empire in the entire game. I'd like to welcome you to the lowlands of the HRE in 1444 AD. The six nations of Flanders, Holland, Brabant, Utrecht, I'm not even gonna pronounce that one, and Friesland have been updated with a brand new mission tree that allows you to form the Netherlands faster and easier than any patch previously. Each Dutch, Flemish, and Frisian tag offers slightly different rewards with this tree depending on your start, with the larger nations like Holland offering military rewards, and the smaller states like Friesland offering Republican tradition, among other goodies. With that said, who is the best Dutch nation to form the Netherlands? Well, if min-maxing development and starting off as the strongest nation is important to you, then choose either Brabant, Holland, or Flanders. Another consideration is the diplomatic situation, with Flanders, Brabant, and Holland all sharing Burgundy's powerful 555 king, but each start as subjects under a personal union, while the northeastern three are independent with poor to average rulers. In my opinion, Holland is the best choice for the most powerful and flavorful Dutch campaign. The fact that they are a subject of Burgundy is actually a great advantage, as it will allow you to get France and Castile as early game allies, and use an independence war to take more land faster than an independent Dutch minor. The de facto capital of the United Provinces was also Den Haag, so Holland is the most logical choice for playing a tall campaign. For this guide, we will select Holland, opt into Iron Man mode for a new achievement, and prepare the Poffertjes. Our first order of business will be to bring our army up to force limit by hiring 2 or 3 infantry, which will allow us to raise the militia and get claims over all of the Netherlands. Before unpausing our game, we will also fulfill the second branch of the mission tree, which is easiest by pushing our trade power in Lubbock to 5%. We start with only 1% trade in this node, so we'll send our full fleet of 13 ships to protect trade there temporarily. Next, we'll check the rivals of Burgundy and accept offers of independence from anyone available, which will usually be a mix of England, France, Castile, and/or anyone else who doesn't like Ron Burgundy. As with any EU4 campaign, we'll start by seizing Crown land and summoning the Diet. Your choice of estate privileges is largely a subjective decision, but I'd recommend taking religious diplomats to boost your diplomatic reputation and opinion of Catholic nations enough to often allow more nations to support your independence and become your ally. I also add the religious state privilege for +1 monthly admin monarch power, the estate right that automatically solves our first call to Diet, and the burgher privileges that boost trade power. Patronage of the arts for prestige is also a solid pick, as are the various privileges that increase burgher loyalty without sacrificing crown land. We have enough ducats to buy 1 or 2 level 1 advisors, and I've picked an artist to reduce stability costs before spending our starting monarch power on boosting our stability by 1, and will later pick a discipline advisor to help with our early war against Burgundy. It's time to unpause our campaign and send out a diplomat to increase relations with Denmark to later complete the Ending the Sound Toll mission. With this diplomat in place and your trade ships protecting Lubbock's trade node, we can now complete the Hansa Relations mission, which will give us +2 mercantilism, claims on Lubbock and Gotland that last the entire game, and a temporary trade bonus within the node. By January 1445, we'll be at or slightly above force limit, which will allow us to raise the militia. This mission bonus gives us permanent claims on all of the lowlands and will further allow us to declare war for independence from Burgundy without suffering any drop in stability. Once our armies are ready and you have a few nations supporting your bid for freedom, it's time to send our ships back home from Lubbock and prepare for war. We have some of the strongest nations in the game as our allies, and we outnumber the enemy by a factor of 2, so let's declare an independence war against Burgundy, but there is a catch. Since we are no longer a PU subject state, we'll get a random RNG leader with low legitimacy, but this 515 is fine, so let's get started. The best thing about being an independent nation is that we can draft our ruler into a general for free, and while you might think that this first war will be incredibly easy, our allies are far away and will need to play defensively until reinforcements arrive. Holland has a larger navy than the other Dutch miners, so we can set our ships to blockade the English Channel and use our extra diplomat to royal marry the nations that are backing our alliance. RNG apparently favors those of heightened verticality, and once you're done arranging marriages, set out your second diplomat to build up a spy network in Utrecht. If you move into Burgundy, the AI will target your army, so I recommend waiting on our capital and letting your far more powerful friends fight on your behalf. But sometimes Burgundy just doesn't like you, and if they insist on invading you, use your fort in The Hague to retreat your forces north into Amsterdam. We can use our navy to evacuate these men and ferry them into the ports of western France, where they can link up with the rest of your friends. There is a chance Burgundy can break your capital fort early, but your side should have a significant number advantage, and before long you can push back into the lowlands. It doesn't matter if your capital falls, as you can always take it back later, and once the enemy is out of your land, sit back and relax as the AI does the heavy lifting. Once we have 20 spy network in Utrecht, we will claim the province and use any free diplomats to improve relations with anyone and everyone nearby. You'll soon see why. Use separate pieces to harvest ducats, war reparations, and even a pillage or 2 to boost your capital's development, while otherwise leaving your other diplomat to improve relations with Denmark. Before we sign for peace, I recommend hiring a diplomat advisor, as our aggressive expansion is going to be insane, and we need to improve relations constantly from the start of our game. Spam out improve relations whenever and however you can to your immediate neighbors, and be sure to loot and scoot enough plunder to repay any loans you might have incurred. Before peace, we can also hire more infantry, as our force limit will soon increase, but eventually Burgundy will surrender, and you'll get mounting war exhaustion if you stay in war. This is going to be a risky strategy, but I recommend demanding independence, all 3 provinces of Flanders, the province of Breda from Brabant, and give something to France like Artois. Congratulations, Holland is now free more than 100 years earlier than real-life history, and we can set our rivals to the nearby minor Dutch nations. In this campaign, our capital was under enemy occupation, so we'll need to lower our war exhaustion manually before coring all of our conquered counties. The next 30 years of our campaign are going to be dedicated to only one goal, forming the Netherlands via the new mission tree. This requires more Dutch provinces, so we'll start by declaring war on Utrecht, who is weak enough that we can solo them and their allies alone. The most important thing you can do right now is to keep nations around you above -50 relations with your 2 diplomats. This is because the HRE Emperor will demand unlawful territory, and when combined with our aggressive expansion from earlier, will start causing coalitions if not managed properly. Our goal is to snipe any co-belligerent out of the war by taking reparations, ducats, and humiliation from them if possible, for splendor generation and power projection. We'll vassalize Utrecht to mitigate aggressive expansion and diplomatically annex them later on, and we can now unlock the Unification of Holland mission. This lowers our AE by 10 in the HRE and gives us monarch military power and some extra legitimacy. You should use this brief time of peace to ally Denmark if you haven't done so already, and royal marry them to get above 150 relations and complete the mission ending the Sound Toll, which will give us more trade power in Lubbock. Seize ground land and call diets at every available opportunity, and use any excess ducats to invest in constructing churches and marketplaces while waiting for war exhaustion to lower naturally. Our next target is Friesland, and by calling in France or another ally from independence, it will be easy. Your navy will grow naturally as it captures enemy ships, and I opt for the spicy strategy of chaining a war against East Friesland, as they are not in the HRE and the AE from taking them will normally be negligible. The key to our early game is momentum and saving our manpower, and a cool tip is to stay in war with allies that can take out your rebels for you. We'll separately peace Gelre for ducats and war reparations, and fully annex Friesland's 2 provinces, and say 9 to the Kaiser a second time, though this time, nations of the Holy Roman Empire are starting to join a coalition. We need to reach for peace with East Friesland, though they have somehow joined the HRE during the war, and will cost us yet another huge wave of aggressive expansion penalties, because apparently we can't have nice things. At this point, you will certainly have a huge coalition, so our main goal will be to get the most powerful nations to above +50 opinion by improving relations with them, and diplomat advisors are crucial for this operation. Speed forth into the future, and soon we'll reach Administration Technology Level 5, which will allow us to choose our first national idea group. Infrastructure ideas are without a doubt the best pick for a Netherlands tall campaign, and will net us dev cost reduction modifiers among many other bonuses, so be sure to pick it first. With our diplomats improving relations and monetary gifts, we can get coalition members to above +50 relations, after which they'll leave the coalition one by one. Getting the larger nations out first, like Austria, is a good strategy, as coalitions are calculated by military strength, and once you save up enough for your first Splendor ability, select Transfer Subject, as it will be crucial for our next conflict. Eventually, the coalition will become more manageable and disappear entirely, and if you are ahead in technology, be sure to develop your capital to 30 for more Splendor generation. Our truce with Burgundy will have also expired by the 1470s, so as soon as you can, call your allies into the conflict and declare war for Brabantine land. Using our other diplomat, we will now build a spy network in England to eventually claim the province of Calais. This second war with Burgundy will be even easier than the prequel, but keep an eye on your navy, and aim to use your money to build heavy and light ships with the goal of surpassing the strength of the English fleet. Fabricate a claim on Calais, separate peace co-belligerents for money at every opportunity, and for peace we'll have Burgundy humiliated, drained of ducats, and transfer their subject of Brabant to us with our Splendor ability. We can now complete the second of 3 missions needed to form the Netherlands, and we'll use one of our diplomats to diplomatically annex our vassal Utrecht as soon as we have +190 relations with them. Once the coast is clear of coalitions, there will only be one Frisian polity left in play, and we'll need to take their clay in order to form the Netherlands. By now, this will be so easy, you probably don't need to call in alliances, but Clenflesh from France will make the process cheesier. We have so much money that we can select our first naval policy, the Dutch trade fleet, and before long, our first vassal will diplomatically integrate into our nation. Holland's economy is based almost entirely off of war reparations, and once Gelre is alone and occupied, take and annex their titular province. This is the last province we need to complete our third and final Netherlands formation mission, and in a little over 30 years from campaign start, we can complete the Je m'entendrai mission. We still have to wait for our core to complete before forming the Netherlands, and I recommend staying ahead in technology and breaking any coalition that might have formed. With our final core in place, we can form the Netherlands and complete our starter missions, but be aware that in my pre-launch patch, the Low Countries University's mission appears to be bugged and only spawns one university if multiple provinces are tied for highest development. It is the end of the line for England, so go ahead and send your fleet back to the coast of Holland and prepare for war over the port of Calais. England is almost always allied to Portugal, and we want their islands off of the coast of Africa, which is the actual goal of this war. So, once your navy is gravy, go ahead and send your ships to blockade position outside of London. Be sure to rival England if they aren't already, and declare war for Calais once you can call in France or Castile. It's about time our navy did something useful, and on day one of our war with England, we've sunk their main fleet and can single-handedly blockade all of their troops from leaving the British Isles. We can also call in Castile, which will make taking out Portugal even easier, and with no English army to interfere, we've basically already won this war by the first month. Taking Calais will grant a ticking war score, and once you reach admin technology level 7, it's time to take our second idea group, which will be exploration. Unfortunately, we'll need to lift the blockade of London to use our navy to ferry our men into Portugal's African islands, but this won't take long. Ironically, these islands are the most important war goal and will allow us to jumpstart our own colonization, so once they're taken, ferry your navy and army back to the English Channel. Once your allies take Lisbon, you can separate piece Portugal for all of their islands, and an interesting tip is that you can actually demand Cabo Verde without maps or vision on the territory. With the enemy still blocked from leaving England, we can now send our men into Ireland unopposed, and this luck of the Irish has blessed us with a half-decent king after our previous one died. Don't waste your manpower by invading England proper, as your war score with Ireland and Calais will be more than enough, and be sure to separate peace co-belligerents and force them to transfer trade to make you ridiculously wealthy. As for England itself, I recommend only taking Calais, the Island of Man, and a small portion of Ireland to release as a vassal, as 60% of our war score will be employed to force them to steer trade to us within the English Channel. We can release our Irish subject and feed them the island later on in our campaign, but for now, England is funneling us fiat currency, and it's time to focus our attention outside of Europe. While I don't normally recommend taking exploration ideas, the quest for the New World is crucial for us to out-colonize the competition, and will allow us to hire explorers. France also has a tendency to break alliances, and in this case, they claimed our throne, so if you lose them as a friend, try seeking alliances with Austria or Poland. Our first explorer will be sent to explore the Ivory Coast of Africa, and this is where we will focus our attention, though our increased trade power and growing fleet will also allow us to support the bulk trades and gain permanent claims over every Baltic center of trade. Eventually, the event, constitutionalism, and the general estates will fire not long after we formed the Netherlands, and the choice you decide will permanently change your government form, so let's take a deep dive. The first option, Confederacy on a Republican model, will change your monarchy into a fully fledged unique Dutch republic that has all of the advantages and disadvantages of republics, with the added ability to royal marry. On paper, this sounds like a good idea, but it's actually a massive mistake. This is because all republics, including this Dutch variant, cannot enforce personal unions on other nations. We would normally get a guaranteed free PU over England through the brand new Netherlands mission tree as a monarchy or a confederacy, but with this Dutch Republic government form, it only offers claims, which is a significantly slower and less efficient expansion method for the early game. The second government option is Confederacy with traces of monarchism, which is basically a constitutional monarchy. The reform modifiers are exactly the same as those of the Dutch Republic, including all of the naval and trade bonuses, with the main difference being that you will retain your previous monarchy reforms, keep legitimacy instead of republican tradition, and can PU other nations. This also includes being able to PU England for free via your mission tree, and the unique Tier 3 reform, 7 provinces, which is probably the best reform for playing tall within the entire game. Republics and normal monarchies cannot access this overpower reform, which among other things lowers development cost and greatly buffs territories uniquely within the Netherlands, while slightly nerfing those outside of the Low Countries region. In my opinion, this unique Dutch monarchy is one of the best government types in all of EU4, and it could be considered a strict upgrade to the third and final choice, which is keeping your vanilla feudal monarchy. Thankfully, I'm a cheater, and I made a backup to conduct this experiment, or else we'd be stuck as a republic, but unfortunately that means we'll have to wait for it to fire again before we can take the second and superior Stadholder monarchy as our form of government. Now that our explorer has blessed the maps down in Africa and we have a core over formerly Portuguese Cabo Verde, we can begin building spy networks across Africa. We'll split our European army into a second African corps that will ferry off the coast of Senegal, and once you can fabricate a claim, declare war and let the bodies hit the floor. You'll soon get your first colonist via the second exploration idea set, and you should send it out to Sao Tome Island, as this will allow you to claim and core adjacent Beninese and Congolese coastal territories. Take every African coastal province that you can and convert them into trade companies, and be sure to diplomatically annex any Dutch vassals that might still be your subject state. Back in Europe, there are still some nations within the Low Countries region, and it's time for us to invade Liège. It's Belgium versus the world, and we have 3 times as many soldiers, so we'll secure Swiss reparations and eventually absorb these Wallonian weaklings. To our southwest, Spain is trying to claim Brazil for themselves, so we'll set up a spy network on the natives and recall our only colonist to then send them into South America. You can hire mercenary armies in your overseas colonies, which means that fulfillment is coming to the Amazon, and fortunately for us, the government event fired once again, which means that we can now reform into a Stadholder monarchy. Unfortunately for us, this spawns a snap election, and we're forced to elect an orangist authoritarian that knows the art of the deal. The last Flemish nation fell to our orangists in 1493, while we apprenticed and annexed the majority of Brazil. If you ally Poland with a Lithuanian PU, you can enable God mode in-game, as no coalition will dare attack you, and with our expansion, the Netherlands is now a great power in global affairs. Supremacy over England is by now a certainty, but to get the PU casus belli over England, we'll need a spy network of 30, and more development in our home provinces. Gaining development is easy with so many development cost reduction modifiers, but the real VOC don't take the easy way out. Nay, they core and conquer Capsaican coastlines. With more development than England, we can now complete the mission for the PUCB. All Dutchmen are required to report to the island of Man immediately, and with our fleet in position, it's time to personally unionize England by way of war. The English AI in EU4 is like an orange cat in real life, as it tends to act illogically, and in this example, the enemy is seemingly present only in Ireland. Our navy can blockade the Irish Sea and prevent them from going home, effectively leaving England defenseless to a carpet siege strategy. Normans hate this one simple trick, and with Netherlands naval superiority, the possibility of a future independent England looks incredibly unlikely. To add insult to injury, England is still allied to Portugal, which means that we can conquer their Caribbean colonies, and with London falling and Portuguese colonies kidnapped, we'll focus on Brittany and their PU partner Burgundy. Total victory ensures that Burgundy cedes the last 3 low county territories, which means that we now control all swamp Germans and obtain an achievement. The coalitions are coming back as well, but by this point it doesn't matter, as all of Portugal's colonies will forge us a Caribbean colonial nation and corresponding branching mission. England's army never left Ireland, and with a war score of 99%, we can put the British under new management as our junior PU partner. It's only $14.99, and this is insanity, so naturally we'll complete the Glorious Revolution mission, and if we played until Admin Tech 18 or another 100 years, we could unite the 2 crowns via decision to inherit all of England and form arguably the most powerful new tag in all of EU4. Ireland, England, Normandy, Bordeaux, and the Netherlands are now united under the golden showers of guilders, and you are now certified officially overpowered. By 1499, we've essentially won EU4 and set ourselves up for a world conquest, but if you want to keep playing, you can spawn the colonialism institution as you met all of the prerequisites. We're the number 2 greatest power in the world, ahead of time on tech in every category, and can go for our golden era in the early game. Expanding our colonies into the New World will give us colonial nations as subjects, which will in turn colonize on our behalf, and by 1507 we already have Dutch Brazil and the Dutch West Indies. The spice is right, and you should head east as fast as possible and bingo bango bongo the Congo on your way to South Africa. If you aren't Korea controller, convert to Protestant for the aspect of faith bonuses, and I also recommend colonizing Manhattan to complete a mission and use fabricated claims to bring civilization to New Netherlands. With our national ideas, the Infrastructure Idea Group bonus, and government reforms, we can dev boost our lowland counties for practically no cost at all, and by 1512 we're the #1 global power. The advent of the Age of Reformation gives us 3 fulfilled splendor modifiers immediately, and for your third national idea, I'd recommend expansion to snowball our colonial empire. Once you explore eastwards, you can form the VOC. Expanding westwards will allow us the colonial nation of New Netherlands, and colonizing the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa will allow further operations into Asia and beyond. Of course, our ally Poland dragged us into a costly war with the Ottomans, who were allied with France, and while this expended thousands of lives and ducats in mercenaries, we survived with a white peace. While recording the end of the campaign, I realized there's a really powerful government reform at Tier 3 called the 7 Provinces, which adds even more dev cost reduction modifiers. That puts us at negative 113.9% additive dev cost reduction for our capital and 83.9 dev cost reduction for every single county within the lowlands. Moving into the future, our actions in Europe are still limited due to a continental coalition, but our colony Dutch Brazil declared war on and ate Castilian Brazil without our involvement. With the burgher privilege of granting New World charters, we finally have the colonial range to reach Indonesia from our growing dominion over South Africa, and we can at last form the East Indian Company for an extra merchant while we take the cocoa and snouts for king, country, and the VOC. As we've reached Indonesia and set up shop in the hospitable North Sentinel Islands, this will be the end of our campaign. So let's take a look at what the world looks like after 85 years of going Dutch. Our empire of the United Crowns of England and Holland dominates Western Europe and expands into North America and Canada, the entirety of Dominica and Jamaica, most of Brazil, the entire coastline of West and South Africa, and into the heart of the Spice Islands. We're #1 and it's not even close, though there has been a continental coalition against us for 3 decades, and England has been disloyal since the day we took her by force. If we continued playing until Admin Tech 18, we could inherit all of England and form a cool new tag with insane national ideas by uniting the 2 crowns via decision. We're ahead of technology in every category, spawned colonialism as an institution, have 35 innovation, and have completed infrastructure ideas for the dev cost reduction modifier while working on exploration and expansion. For the 4th national idea, I'd recommend picking a military set like plutocratic for even more dev cost reduction modifiers, or offensive or quality ideas for much needed army discipline. The Netherlands have the world's largest navy, highest income, and highest trade income, and pull more than 135 ducats per month before expenses. Within the lowlands, nearly every single building has been built on every possible county, and our development is greener than ganja when viewed in relation to our European neighbors. Our capital in The Hague is the most developed city in the world, and out of the 10 most developed global cities, 40% are within our Gouda nation. The Dutch culture has almost entirely replaced Flemish due to cultural conversion, and our tall tribe of bicycle businessmen can be found on every continent in every corner of the world. The Protestant faith has also spread among these stroopwafels, and the Amsterdam Stockhouse can be instantly completed 70 years early on account of our fat stacks of guilders. If you want to see more Netherlands or EU4, let me know in the comment box below, and we might continue this campaign into Asia and beyond. Support AlzaboHD for free by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Pre-purchase EU4 Winds of Change today by using my link in the description box and pinned comment below, and I'd like to thank Paradox Interactive for sponsoring today's video. For extra spice and pepper, you can also support the channel by becoming a Patreon supporter or by becoming a YouTube channel member, and your name will appear forever in channel credit history.